You are listening to Dove Valley Deep Divers with Erick Trickel
and Lance Sanderson.
Ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line. Vaughn Miller did it again.
On Overtime Media.
And we are live. Mile high hello, everybody in Broncos country, and welcome into another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers live podcast. I am your host, Lance Sanderson, and joining me, as always, he is my good friend and colleague. He is your Denver Broncos insider and Mile High Huddle senior NFL draft analyst. He is the one and the only Erick Trickel. Erick, how are you now?
I'm doing all right. Yesterday was a interesting day. I mean, it was my wife's birthday, so fortunately we got to celebrate that as much as we could with everything that's going on. Just spending time relaxing and everything like that, reading some books, a really good book series. Actually, I've already read it before, but reading it through again called Red Rising. Really enjoyable if you like kind of like space and action. But yeah, just ready to talk about some football, some good football stuff for us to talk about today. And glad you're back.
Yeah, glad to be back. You know, it was a good weekend. Got away with the boys. I posted a new profile pic on Facebook and Twitter and whatnot, showing me and the boys sitting up on the mountain. It was good to get away a little bit, go see the folks for a little while, and had a couple too many adult beverages. We won't specify which ones they were, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm glad to be back. Glad to be talking some Broncos with you. We got kind of an interesting little piece of information to come in today from Kurt Warner regarding Drew Lock, and just the way that the Broncos fans probably should temper their expectations, pump the brakes just a little bit, slow down from calling Drew Lock. I know we got Colin Cowherd, I believe it was, that said that he's the next second-year MVP coming in. And I mean, yeah, I get that and everything, but at the same time, when you're in a league that has Drew Brees still playing at a fairly high level, obviously you've got Patrick Mahomes, you've got Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson. Even though they lost DeAndre Hopkins, he still plays a pretty good football game. And if you look at him and just what he is able to do, even behind that lackluster offensive line, and now especially without the wide receivers that he had before, I mean, there's a good chance that when you say MVP, it is most valuable player, and it's not necessarily the most valuable player in the NFL. Sure, that's what it's come to, but it might be the most valuable player on any team. And if let's say, for instance, the Texans do make it to the AFC Championship game this year and Deshaun Watson's playing well, there's no reason to think that he couldn't win the MVP this year. So it's hard to lump Drew Lock into that kind of a scenario right now. But still, I mean, there's got to be some kind of a high expectation. We saw the growth and everything like that. You can expect to see him take that next step, but to call him an MVP caliber candidate kind of a player, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I definitely don't agree with that too. I mean, can he be very good? Sure, he can be, but a lot of what Kurt Warner talks about and made in his comment are things that I definitely agree with. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you also have to look at, and you mentioned a few quarterbacks out there, and there's plenty of other quarterbacks out there. Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers. What's Tom Brady going to do in Tampa Bay? I don't think he's going to do as great as so many have come to expect from him. Russell Wilson. Let's see, who else is there? Ben Roethlisberger, maybe he bounces back this year. Lamar Jackson, maybe he takes the next step forward. Maybe the Kevin Stefanski offense fits Baker Mayfield. Like there's so many quarterbacks out there that Drew Lock winning MVP is just something that's, I'm not sure that's going to happen. Like that's a huge step forward. I mean, there's definitely some consistency issues there with him. I mean, he only played 5 games, but he's got to take that next step. And it's not that common that we see a quarterback be where Drew Lock is and suddenly take that huge step forward to where they can be and compete and push for an MVP award. Patrick Mahomes is kind of a one of a kind kind of situation here. Just doesn't happen that often. I don't see it happening with Lock. I think Lock will be a very good quarterback. I mean, he's definitely shown that he can cover up for the issues, offensive line. He can definitely take advantage of what talent's there, and they went and got a lot of talent. I do expect a lot out of him, but I don't think that MVP, like expecting him to throw for like 5,000 yards like I've seen. I think 4,000 yards, I think that we will be lucky if we get that out of him, just because of how uncommon 4,000 yards actually is.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
So I think he can take the next step, but we'll see what happens. He's only got 5 games. He's definitely got a lot of growing left to do and a lot of development left. But there's a reason, as Kurt Warner makes an assignment, there is a reason to be hopeful and be supportive of Drew Lock and his futures with the Broncos.
Yeah, and just getting to that Kurt Warner statement, I have it right here. This was on Broncos Country tonight, I believe, with Benjamin Albright and Ryan Edwards down in Denver. Based on what I saw, quote, based on what I saw last season from Drew, I think he's got a ways to go. I think he's got some learning to do, more consistency to build, which is always the case with young quarterbacks. But we all saw moments, right? We saw some big plays that he made. We saw that big arm come out at different times, and he made some special plays. So I think there's enough there to go on to say, hey, we saw enough things on our record, and our record was good enough with him as our starter. And to close that quote there, yes, he's absolutely correct. I mean, there is still a lot of consistency issues you got to see with him. You see the big, huge, gigantic game that he has against the Houston Texans. The first half throws for 235 yards and 3 touchdowns and just buries the Texans that game. Then the following week they go into, I believe it was the following week, they go into Kansas City and he barely passes for 100 yards. Sure, it was in the snow. It was in Kansas City. It was rough conditions to play in, and that's not necessarily fair to call the consistency issues out in that kind of a game. But it was like that all the way through. He had the big game that he had against the Los Angeles Chargers, his first start, threw a couple touchdown passes. Then it kind of falls back down to earth just a little bit. Goes out and has a huge game against Houston. Comes back down to earth again. Then has another game against the Oakland Raiders where he wasn't very good. I mean, the offense as a whole really wasn't that very good against the Raiders game. And yeah, the Broncos ended up winning because Shelby Harris made that huge play. But at the same time, if you're going to win games consistently, you have to have consistent and quality play from your quarterback position. And Drew Lock through 5 games, yeah, there were a lot of really good flashes, made a lot of really good throws. I mean, that money shot that he threw down the left sideline, I believe it was to Tim Patrick in that cover 2 play against the Houston Texans. There's a beautiful throw. That's a very special NFL caliber throw. He's got to be able to make that throw on a more consistent basis, make plays like that all game long, and not just rely on everybody else and rely the defense to carry the team to wins. If you want to win consistently in the NFL, you have to have quality and consistent quarterback play. Period.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is we can sit here and we can talk about Drew Lock and what we saw on tape and everything like that. And he did get a lot of help. His offensive line, they improved after he took over, especially the left tackle, who I'm not going to sit there and name. People will sit here and want to continue to hound on him, but he's stepped up his play. The receivers outside of Sutton, they didn't step up their play. So they helped hold the offense back a little bit. The other offensive linemen, I mean, they were dealing with so many other injuries on that line that Drew Lock still helped cover for it. So yeah, some of Drew Lock's issues weren't all with him, but some of them were. I mean, we can go and we can look at the stats and everything like this with it. And in those 5 starts, Drew Lock statistically wasn't better than Joe Flacco was. But granted, the offense did change a little bit for Drew Lock. They didn't sit there and have quite as many deep throws as they did with Joe Flacco. Granted, Joe Flacco did have a much wider range of attempts with that. But I mean, he still had a higher NFL passer rating, but his yards per attempt, he only averaged 6.5 yards per attempt, which that's not a great number for the NFL either. So there's definitely a lot of issues with Drew Lock to be concerned about. But again, it was a big thing of having to, let's see, how do I want to put this? Trying to think of the best way to put it. With Drew Lock there is a huge thing of series of events with him that can't be factored out of this too, is that he was on IR. He wasn't allowed to practice with the team and stuff like that for so long, which definitely that helped hurt him too. And so, I mean, he stepped up. But there's still plenty of room to go. He showed the potential, but there's still so much more he wants to do. And Jody, I'm not going to sit here and get into you with this again. Drop Garrett Bowles. We're not going to talk about him, but I will tell you this. I watched every single snap after Joe Flacco was benched. Garrett Bowles held maybe 3 times that could have been called that weren't. Stop with that. He continued to hold. No more talking about Garrett Bowles.
Well, you got a super chat rolling in here. Terry Randall coming in and showing that Broncos country is not a geographic location. It is, in fact, a state of being with $2 donation up in Canada. Terry, thank you for joining us again, man. Hashtag Erick's Tie Rocks, cheers Broncos country, and a bunch of emojis that we can't really say on this podcast because we are, PG, or at least kind of PG. Anyways, PG-13 would probably be the best way to go about that. But anyways, guys, before we get this conversation rolling even further, come and get some of your guys' questions. Just a couple quick matters of business here. You guys can start off by following at DVDD_pod on Twitter. It's the easiest way to find out what we're going to be talking about on today's and tomorrow's episodes. We do throw some takes out there on that as well, but not very often. But if you want to keep your fingers on what we've got going on here, that's the easiest way to stay in touch with what we have at the show. Also, make sure you're following at Mile High Huddle for instant news and analysis on your Denver Broncos. Also, if you get a chance, if you're in a position financially to be able to do so, head on over to huddleuppod.com. Go get your merch. Go get some swag. Get you a hat. Get you a T-shirt. Help support the cause, guys. Seriously, that means a lot to us. If you're going to help out and advertise and whatnot for us like that, it means the world to us. It helps grow the show. But if you're not in a position to do that, there are 3 things that you can do, and this is the easiest way to help support and grow the show. First things first, subscribe. Whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, on Spotify, anything like that, subscribe to Mile High Huddle. You get anytime the show goes live, you get to see that. Like the video and also share it out to all your friends because, again, that's the easiest way to support the show. Now,
I just wanted to grab this one because it was earlier. Navlo came in with a $2 donation earlier saying happy Friday. Happy Friday to you too as well. I'm so thankful this week is over. Yeah.
Oscar coming in with a $3 donation. The Broncos should hashtag hire Erick with his great analysis. Hey, I have said it multiple times on other different forums that Erick doesn't necessarily need to be on Mile High Huddle. He should be in somebody's scouting department. So, yeah, I agree with that.
I don't want to be in a scouting department. I don't want to work for an NFL team because so here's the thing is if you work for an NFL team, you kind of have to censor what you say a little bit. I don't want to do that. And I don't want to work in a scouting department because then I'd be on the road all the time and away from my family.
Yeah.
And get paid. I mean, I'd get paid more than what I get paid doing work in security where people threaten my life on a daily basis. But I don't want to do that and be away from my family and get paid not enough to be away from my family. So.
No, I hear you on that. It would be like the dream scenario if you did actually have the opportunity to go out and do something like that. That would be awesome. But I agree. I did work on the road before. I was in the oil field for a long time, and I was gone for 6-8 weeks at a time. And it's just not fun to be away from your family. It's really hard. And this was before I had Samantha and the boys. But to even try to start a family or anything like that, run a family, be a member of anybody's family, then it's really, really hard to do. So I can understand that completely.
Also, there's that whole fact of as much as I appreciate y'all, I'm not that good. Like, I'm not good enough to be with an NFL team, man. Like, I appreciate it all, but I'm definitely not.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to the comment section here really fast. Shout out to everybody.
Robert, I could move. Like, they can pay for me to move. That's always a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean Do you want to stay in Alaska? Is that something for you?
I really don't know. That's something that I've debated with my wife a lot about was moving out of Alaska. It's always been where would we move to, and we've talked about a few different places. I mean, most of them in Colorado. My family's from Colorado, from Grand Junction specifically. Fun fact, though, is the founder of Grand Junction, Colorado, is actually my great grandfather, something like that. So that's somewhere that I've always wanted to been. But everything I've heard is that Grand Junction's kind of gone down the hole a little bit. But we definitely talked about moving out of Alaska.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the comment section really fast. Say what's up again to Terry. Mitch, man, hey, happy birthday, dude. Thank you for joining us on your birthday. I appreciate that. Happy birthday to you from the Dove Valley Deep Divers, man. Let's see here. Let's see if we can't find a couple of questions, guys.
We would sing you happy birthday, but we don't want to make everyone go deaf.
Let's see here. Fantasy football throwdown. Hey, you know what? Last year, so Erick actually organized a couple of fantasy football leagues for the guys on the Mile High Huddle page. Me and Nick, Carl, Erick, obviously, and a bunch of the readers that we had. We threw it out on our Twitter pages and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun, actually. I play fantasy football every year. It's kind of a big thing, especially with me and my dad. We have a dynasty league, so hopefully we can go out and maybe get Drew Lock this year if he's not already scooped up. But I mean, to go out and start up a fantasy league. Eric, you want to maybe do something like that again?
No.
No.
I hate fantasy football. I don't know what I was thinking. I started 3 leagues last year, and my biggest thing with fantasy football is that about after 4 or 5 games, everybody loses interest. So then people just sit there, and it's not that difficult anymore, and that just kind of ruins it for me. And they have, yes, they do actually. I mean, just every now and then, I just have to go put a little bit more food out of the hamster's reach to keep the wheel spinning. But yeah, definitely. Like we have internet up here. I mean, our igloos are pretty nice if you can't tell. So I've seen this now about Prince Amukamara and the Raiders, and I definitely think that we should talk about that a little bit. And basically, the one thing that I've seen is why the Broncos didn't go get him. And this is one that I've gone back and forth with. And here's my belief on it. No information around this or anything, just my belief is that the Broncos, as much as I hate their depth, they want to see what the depth with Devontae Harris, with Isaac Yiadom, with Devontae Bosby, they want to see what they can do. They want to see what Michael Ojemudia can do before they go and get a veteran guy. So that's why they're kind of waiting. I think they're expecting training camp to be open. I think July 28th was the date that's set for them. I think they're expecting to be able to go back with that, obviously with restrictions going on. But I think they're expecting that. I think they'll want to go see how that pans out and then go after a cornerback, seeing if any of those guys step up. So they're not paying them, and then, hey, those guys step up. We don't need that veteran anymore. Kind of don't want to do that. That's my belief about it. And that the Raiders, after drafting Damon Arnett for some weird reason, their secondary was still atrocious. They decided that they really needed to get a corner right away.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. I really wanted Prince Amukamara, but at the same time, if the Broncos were going to go and make an addition, we're probably going to see it in more towards the training camp side of things. We're going to see, and I would imagine it's going to be a guy. This is one that Nick has been pounding the table on. He put out a whole bunch of really interesting statistics. I posed a question on milehighhuddle.com in the community section. So, guys, if you get a chance, go check that out. Where I asked, what are the names that you have specifically that the Broncos could target for the cornerback position now that Prince Amukamara and Logan Ryan are out of the fold? And Nick came out and put out a whole bunch of very interesting statistics on Darqueze Dennard, the former cornerback from, I believe, Michigan State a few years ago, first-round pick to the Cincinnati Bengals. And he just had a contract that had fallen through with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And it was, a 3-year, $13.5 million deal, I believe, is what it was off the top of my head without looking at it. But anyways, him still being available right now for the Broncos, good scheme fit, plays very well inside, especially if you're going to see, Bryce Callahan and the injury concerns there. If the depth is not shaken out and Darqueze Dennard is still available, Eric, what do you think about that?
Oh, hey, it's great that Darqueze Dennard was able to do so much from the slot, but can he do it from outside? That's what he wants to do. That's the big concern I have with him, is can he do the same kind of performance outside? I mean, even taking a slight step down would be fine, but can he do it? We've seen a lot of great slot corners get stepped outside and fail. So I'd be cautious with his contract and everything, but I mean, you're not bringing him in to be a slot corner. Denver has plenty of those. So it's just, I don't know. I'd rather go, like, I see Eli Apple's out there too, but he's a bit of a headache. That's definitely true. He is a bit of a headache, but that's the route I would rather go. Or Tremaine Johnson, or one of these guys who they've either failed to live up to draft status or failed to live up to a big contract, and seeing if you can't get them to step back up a little bit. I don't want to go get a guy who he failed to get a big contract because of an issue that popped up with his physical, I believe is what it was. So I don't want to take that risk, not on a guy with a potential medical thing. If this is correct, I can't remember what it was, why his contract with the Jaguars fell through. But if it is medical, why are we going to take another risk on that? We just had Bryce Callahan.
Yeah, no, I hear you with that. I don't think it was a medical thing. I think there was just some language that they ended up not agreeing upon, like when bonuses and stuff were going to be paid out, and it was some semantics in the contract. I don't think it was a physical. I could be wrong on that. That might have been the Eli Apple deal with Oakland, though. That might have been a failed physical or a physical deal, something like that. It was because he had a deal agreed to in Oakland. I can't remember off the top of my head, guys. So take that with a grain of salt. But still, just having those guys. Hey, I saw this. I was just about to grab this. Peterson Creative showing it with a very generous super chat. Thank you. We appreciate that. Hey, I bleeds orange and blue on the Twitter machine. Hey. I think I follow you. I believe I follow you. If not, I will rectify that as soon as we're done here. Just jumping in to show some love. Keep it up, boys. Hashtag state of being. Where you at? But yeah, man, thank you for joining us tonight. And it's kind of a dull podcast, not a whole lot to talk about. So we're going to see if we can't wade through some of this and get some of your guys' questions and whatnot. There was a really good one that I had seen that I'd really like to grab really fast.
So, Jeff, I have no idea what the Raiders paid for Prince. And Duke, hey, what's up, man? Glad you can join us. I didn't have any linebackers because I haven't done any work on linebackers for next year's draft outside of Dylan Moses. No. So I didn't have enough information myself about them. Everybody that I had in that draft are guys that I've at least watched a little bit. And so I kind of had to build the mock draft around that.
Micah Parsons, man. Holy cow. Man,
I hear a lot of great things about him.
Super athletic, dude. Super athletic. He could be very good. He's good in coverage, very good coming downhill. Fills scrapes very well. I like him a lot. I watched some stuff after Nick had posted a video right after the draft. No, absolutely not. He's going to be an inside linebacker for sure. He needs to bulk up just a little bit, but he's not going to be a safety. No, that's definitely not it. But as far as a good athlete, scrapes very well, moves through the trash, reads, diagnoses, reacts very well. He's not a see ball, chase ball kind of a guy. He's a read, react, defend, and then do whatever he needs to do to make the plays. Good in coverage as well. I like him a lot. Like I said, I think he needs to bulk up or else he's going to get kind of mowed down a little bit at the NFL level with some of these guards moving downhill. But at the same time, man, you need to get your eyes on him. Micah Parsons, Penn State. Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, I've heard nothing but good things about him, and you just added to that. And the biggest thing is that he's going to be a top 10 pick next year. That's every conversation I've had about him.
Yeah, he's probably going to be the top linebacker off the board. He might even sneak into the top 5 if he's lucky, just depending on who declares with the underclassmen and stuff like that. But he could potentially sneak in and be a top 5 pick. So he's probably going to be out of the Broncos range. But man, he's fun to watch. I watched a little bit. Like I said, Nick posted a video of him on his Twitter handle right after the draft ended, and he's like, for all those linebacker truthers out there, I see you, I appreciate you, and posted this video. It's actually pretty cool to watch. But Robert Caslow, interesting question, going back to the topic at hand today. What part of the offense needs to step up the most to help out Drew Lock? And now this one to me is going to go in 2 different directions, and it's not going to be the front 5. It's going to be on the outside. Specifically, the new guys, the new pass catchers, they are going to have to acclimate quickly. And that's really going to help Drew Lock. We've already seen him be able to step up in the pocket, and the Broncos went out and added some guys that are a really good pass protector. Well, not really good in Lloyd Cushenberry's instance, but there's some potential to develop there. But with Graham Glasgow being a very high-quality pass protector, Dalton Reisner taking that next step as a second-year player, he can step up into the pocket now, this being Drew Lock, and distribute the ball to his weapons. So these young weapons, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, also Noah Fant, Cortland Sutton still needs to grow a little bit more as well. Those guys have to step up, and they have to be able to win in multiple ways, multifaceted attacks where they can get the ball out of Drew Lock's hands quickly, early in the down, escape the pressure from the outside as much as humanly possible, and that is going to help him the most. Now, to have that happen, Zach Azzani and Pat Shurmur need to really go to work on these guys. Pat Shurmur and his scheme really needs to take that step to make it simplified for Drew Lock to get the ball out quickly, and Zach Azzani needs to get these guys well-rounded and ready to play from day one.
You actually took my 2 things. Is I'm going with the coaches, Zach Azzani and Pat Shurmur. They are who has to step up. Zach Azzani has to make sure those wide receivers are ready. It comes down to simple as that. There's some pressure on them to develop and everything like that, but that's the coach's job, is to get them developed, to just tell them what they need to work on and how to improve on those things. And Pat Shurmur, it's his offense. He's got to make sure his offense is able to be effective and everything. And I think it's absolutely wonderful that Drew Lock found a way to pick up his offense in his own way, found a way to translate it basically to make it to a way that he can pick it up easier. I absolutely love that. That's what good quarterbacks do. So that's a good sign there, but you still got to figure out ways to get the scheme receivers open, help scheme for taking pressure off of your quarterback with the running game, things like that. I definitely think it's on them, but I think that the one that it's on the most to help him out is himself. Yeah. Develop, improve, get more consistent, things like that. He makes those steps. He works studying film to improve his ability to read quarterbacks. That's on him.
Yeah, no, and the with him being able to, showing the want to and the need to, the drive to go out and do stuff like that, especially in these times. I mean, we're talking about unprecedented things going on here, and they're not allowed to be in the building right now. They're not allowed to have these meetings. They're doing Zoom meetings. I mean, Cortland Sutton and AJ Bouye came out, did a Zoom press conference the other day. I didn't get a chance to sit in that. I was working, unfortunately, but it sounds like there was a lot of very good information coming out of that. And they are all kind of frustrated with this whole situation. You know, like they don't want to be doing this through Zoom meetings. They don't want to have these class periods and stuff like that, these study periods with their, like, they want to be out. They want to be throwing the ball around if they can and organizing some catching, throwing and catching sessions and everything like that. But to have to do and learn a new offense for a guy that has had 5 different offensive coordinators over the course of his career, going back to Mizzou, like, because he had one every year in college, and then now one is rookie year, and now another one. So this would be number 6 in 6 years, to be able to go out, figure out a way that works for him to learn this system. And now it's going to come down to Pat Shurmur. How can he relay that in a live game setting and make it so it's going to translate to not only him, but to everybody else that has that lack of communication right now, the offensive line, the wide receivers, everybody involved. I mean, it's a very unique situation this year, and it might lead to some sloppy football early. And it's not just from the Broncos and Drew Lock. I mean, like Zach said last night, there's 31 other teams that are dealing with this current situation right now as well. So everyone has this same kind of learning curve, and they all have to figure it out, plain and simple. And if Drew Lock's going to go out there and use some virtual training and stuff like that and figure it out himself, kudos to him, man. And that makes me love him even more.
Yeah, definitely. And one good thing about this, though, with the situation that's going on, is that one thing that helped Drew Lock a lot was the virtual reality stuff that he did with the Broncos, and he did it at Missouri too. That definitely helped him a lot. So I think that's actually, I don't want to say it's a detriment or a benefit, but it's something that, with everything that's going on, I guess it would be a little bit of a benefit that he knows how to take the virtual reality stuff and put that out on the field and grow from that. So I guess that, and people are asking to show off your hat. Oh,
yeah. Dove Valley Deep Divers. It's a like a royal bluish color. I wish it didn't have a green bill underneath it, but it's pretty nice, man. Go over to huddleuppod.com, get your swag on, grab your merch, do whatever you got to do to help support the show. But yeah, it's nice, good quality. The shirt is actually really cool. It wears very well. It's got the same Dove Valley Deep Divers logo on it. So we've got Building the Broncos stuff up there. We've got a hat and a T-shirt for them. Of course, all the stuff you know and love from Chad and Zach and Mile High Huddle and the face masks and stuff like that. But from my taste right now, the shirts that we got, the shirts that are coming out, super, super comfortable, dude. I love them. It's very comfortable, very light, very breathable. So especially starting to get hot now. I wore this to work earlier today, so it was actually pretty nice. But give us a twirl, Lance.
So I saw this question earlier, and I've been trying to find it, and I finally found it. What's your surprise breakout player this year for Denver?
My surprise breakout player for Denver this year?
Don't say Austin Ford.
I don't know. That's
somebody who's actually got a chance to make the roster.
No, I'm not going to say Austin Ford. Yes, he does have a chance to make the roster, and I love my Wyoming boy. Breakout player that's not a rookie, because that's kind of obvious. I like Atauchu a lot. Malik Reed, probably not so much. Alexander Johnson kind of already had his breakout year last year. Let's go. You know what? I'll go in the secondary again just because I liked him just a little bit. Trey Marshall, I think that he might be able to step up. I don't know. Man, that's hard. That's a hard question.
All right. Okay. I'm going Draymond Jones. Like he showed the flashes last year. He can definitely step up. He showed the potential and the growth as a run defender. He definitely showed the ability to win with his quickness as a pass rusher. I'm going with him because he actually showed something unlike Trey Marshall.
I think there's something to work with there. Actually, honestly, you know what? Devontae Harris would be a decent one too.
I would go Harris over Marshall.
Devontae Harris would be. Devontae Harris was the one that I was going to say. I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. One of the two. Devontae Harris is probably the one, though. If I had to pick anybody, Devontae Harris would really be it.
You made me feel like I got a shower after this with that one.
Go ahead. You stink. I can smell you all the way from Alaska. Stop it.
Ew. This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Draymond Jones is actually a good one. But if I had to include everybody, the rookies that I would like to see have that breakout season, and I'm going to go away from my number one wide receiver in the class. I'm going to go KJ Hamler here. KJ Hamler, I think, has the ability and potential to go and be that like a super dynamic playmaker. So if we're gonna lump rookies into this, give me KJ Hamler over Jerry Jeudy, and I know that's a tough pill for me to swallow.
Okay, it's breakout player, not like shock factor here. Come on now. If we're adding rookies to this, then I'm gonna go with, let's see here, Michael Ojemudia. That's who I'd go with.
Yep, that's a good one. That was actually one of the first ones I thought.
I defended his draft pick. I still will to this day. Maybe he'll end up failing. We don't know, just based off of what he offered up as a prospect. I definitely like what he can bring. I think he can be a starter, as Denver is looking at having him do. So I think he'll definitely be put in the position to succeed as well.
Yep.
Man.
Khalfani Muhammad, I liked what he did. There's something about those. I doubt it. The Broncos still have Royce Freeman. They're probably only going to carry 3 running backs because in my estimation, they're going to carry 4 tight ends. It's going to be obviously Noah Fant, Nick Van Alberto, and then probably Andrew Beck, excuse me. And then they're going to keep 3 running backs, and it's going to be Phillip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon, obviously, and then Royce Freeman. But if Khalfani Muhammad did make the roster for some reason, the Broncos did find a trade partner for Royce Freeman, Khalfani Muhammad might be the only guy that could be able to step in. But at that point, I would rather see them. I know this is going to be painful to say. I might have to wash my mouth out. I would rather see them go and sign a veteran backup rather than bring Khalfani Muhammad onto the field. I really would.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that he has a upward battle to get to this roster, and I think that the one guy that didn't get mentioned by you that he's got to kind of surpass is.
Yep, there it is.
I wanted to get this real quick. Is the word going around is that Logan Ryan, the Jets believe. Wording here is important for what I'm going to say. The Jets believe, I haven't seen anything official, that they are going to sign Logan Ryan, but at one point the Jets believed they were going to sign Anthony Barr. Something fell through. Last I heard was that he was out of their price range. We don't know if the Jets are actually going to sign him as well, so that's something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah,
They did have interest at one point too, just so you know.
Well, I was actually going to grab that one too, but we had a super chat come in right here. Terry Randall coming in again from Canada. Thank you once again, Terry, for joining us. Combined yards for Fant, Jeudy, Sutton over or under 3,000 yards. Hashtag state of being. Hashtag Broncos world.
Just under.
Yeah.
That's saying each one of them getting at least about 1,000 yards there. I can see Fant and Jeudy breaking 1,000 yards, but I think Fant is going to be somewhere in that 600, 700 range.
I was actually about to say the same thing, but I don't think that Judy's going to break 1,000 yards. I think he's going to be in that 800 range. So it's going to be probably 600 to 700 for Fant, 800 to 900 for Jeudy, and over 1,000, probably 1100 to 1,200 for Cortland Sutton. So roughly, if it balances out to way, it's going to be 26 to 2,700 yards roughly, I think, between the three. Without sitting down and writing out the math and everything like that, I couldn't tell you, but I don't think that they break a 3,000 yard barrier. It would take Sutton, I think, over 1,500 to do that.
Yeah, and I don't see that happening. I think that he would get I think he ends up with about 1,200 yards. I think that Jeudy just gets over 1,000, like not even 1,100, just over 1,000, bringing up 22, and then probably end up somewhere around 28, 29, depending on what Noah Fant does.
Yeah, that's a pretty good, really pretty good estimation, honestly. And again, without going back and looking at what Pat Shurmur did with what was Odell Beckham, Sterling Shepard, those two, and then Evan Ingram as well.
Well, this is a whole other thing too that we have to factor in is, are they going to get hurt? Because Pat Shurmur's wide receivers when he was with New York didn't have the luck of staying on the field.
No, and that's very true. Odell Beckham Jr. had that nasty ankle injury, absolutely brutal ankle injury. And then just the head case that he was, that's a different completely argument entirely. But last year, holy cow, man, I swear.
At one point, they had to rely on Benny Fowler and Cody Latimer as their top.
Yeah, Broncos cast off is what those are. Okay, so here we go. You think Freeman gets traded at some point this year? I don't think so. I really don't. I think he's going to live out the contract that he has with the Broncos. Is he a free agent after this year, or is it next? No, be next year, after next year, yeah. So
I think go ahead, finish. I thought you were
I was just saying, I think that if anything crazy were to happen regarding Freeman, the craziest thing that you could see happen is him getting cut, but I don't believe that's going to happen. I think he's going to still be on the roster this year, but I don't think there's any trade value there. You'd be looking at like a 2022 conditional 7th round pick at best.
Sending a 2021 7th round pick.
Exactly. You'd be paying somebody to take Royce Freeman. And I love Royce Freeman. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a good back. But there's no value. There's no value with a running back like that. There's really not. A third rotational guy that is not really the greatest pass catcher. Yes, I was impressed with him out wide as a pass catcher this last year, but at the same time, as a pass catcher coming out of the backfield, not solid in pass protection, is not really lived up to the draft hype at all. I don't know. I don't think there's any value there.
Do you need a stickers? Your takes today have just been Royce Freeman good.
I said he was an okay or a good back. He's not a great back. He's a good player.
So
he plays in the NFL. If you're an NFL player, you're
Trevor Siemian played in the NFL. Come on now.
You got to be at least good at football to play in the NFL, okay? You may not be good in the NFL, but you got to be at least good at football.
Tim Tebow played in the NFL. You don't have to be
was good at football. He wasn't a good quarterback. He was good at football.
I'm talking. So with the whole thing with Freeman is I don't think he gets traded. If he's not with the Broncos this year, he's going to be cut. I think that he's going to end up making the roster. Just because of what he can do out wide. That's the only decent thing that he brings to the team is what he can do lined up as a receiver. And then I think that if he gets cut, it'll be after the season.
Yeah.
I just don't think that he has value on the trade market.
Jeff Green coming in here with a really good comment here. Royce was great in college, but he also had 1,000 carries and probably isn't going to do much more than he already has. And I agree with that. Now, the reason why I wanted to grab this comment is because it was right before training camp, I believe it was after when was it? I can't remember. We were in a group chat anyways, and you had went through and found a bunch of guys that had over 1,000 carries in college and then went on to have successful careers. And out of all the guys that you went and found, there was one or two. And the second one was debatable that he actually had a good career. There
was one, and the one was a guy who played, I believe back in the 90s. Because I went back to 1990 or something like that, or maybe no, it might have been the 80s. But yeah, there was one who had a good career. There was another one that was debatable, and the other aspect was major injuries to it. And Royce Freeman did have kind of a big injury as well, so that added to it too. But yeah, you just don't get that many carries, don't have those kind of injury concerns, and end up being good in the NFL. And Jody, after the Dallas game, I at no point ever wanted to sign Trevor Siemian to a long-term quarterback because he was always super overrated by Broncos fans. He wasn't good. They had to cut down the field to 1/3 each play to make him be somewhat effective.
You thought Joe Flacco was a statue in the pocket. At least, Siemian may not have stood there like a statue, but at least Flacco didn't fade into protection, into pressure. Jesus, you want to talk that man had the worst pocket presence I think I've ever seen in my life. It's awful.
The whole thing about Tebow was a great football player, but not a quarterback. All right, I guess he was he was. I don't even want to say he was a great football player because he really wasn't. He was more rugby player in the NFL than football player.
Yeah.
So I don't really want to say he was a great football player, but okay, I'll take that one back. Okay, Tim Tebow wasn't. Trevor Siemian still stands.
Yes. No. Absolutely. Let's see here.
So this is actually something that I want to bring up too. Talking about the running backs and what they did in the thing is Monte Ball, because you and Nick had a conversation in our private chat about this the other day.
Yeah, we did.
About what Monte Ball could have done and been if he didn't start get in trouble with alcohol, if he didn't start using alcohol as much as he did. And that's actually a very interesting conversation because there are and I don't want to get too much about what he could have done because that's just a bunch of what ifs. But that's one thing too that a lot of people have to factor into is there's a lot going on in these personal lives of these players and everything that we don't know about that do affect their play on the field. With Monte Ball, it happened to be alcoholism. And it's just one of those things that he's gotten help. He's definitely improved himself and everything, which hats off to him. Kudos. I know I've seen a lot of alcoholics and how hard it is for them to get over that and everything. But there's just so many things that we don't know about, like Paxton Lynch. We didn't know that he wasn't going to come into the NFL and take things seriously when all of his college coaches would talk about how good of a work ethic he had and how he had his head on his shoulders. There's so many variables with these guys that also just really hurts when you look at what they may have been if they just applied themselves, or if they just didn't get to get, like in this case, in alcoholism or drug addiction or things like that, or even medicals. A lot of good players sat there and have their careers ruined because they just can't stay out on the field. So a lot of things, something that's definitely to be concerned about.
No, absolutely. And the story of Monte Ball was one that really kind of broke my heart. I really I agree with that one. No, I loved Monte Ball coming out of Wisconsin. I was so happy that they drafted Monte Ball over Eddie Lacy. That toe fusion surgery, and this was the comment that I made in our group chat. The toe fusion surgery that Eddie Lacy had when he was at Alabama really scared me. And I mean, either one of them really didn't have huge careers. But looking back on it in hindsight, maybe Eddie Lacy may have been the better pick there, even with the toe fusion surgery. At least he stayed in the NFL and played for a few more years than Monte Ball did. But still, Monte Ball, growing up a Broncos fan, growing up a Terrell Davis fan, that was a big reason why I liked him. I liked his game. And that rookie year, he actually did look really, really good in a Broncos uniform. So to see him fall off a cliff like that was kind of heartbreaking to me. I love Monte Ball, and I hope that he does great things in life. I think he's actually a pretty decent person as well, especially being able to come out of something like that. So, but anyways.
So, Cobra Commander, here's the last thing I'm going to say on this is, doesn't matter how much money you make, money doesn't cover up what personal demons a person may be playing with, maybe dealing with. We don't know the personal demons. Let's not try and trivialize it by saying, oh, they played in the NFL. Like, that's got to be so tough. They're superstars in college. We have no idea what personal demons they were playing with. We have no idea about what's going on in their personal life. I mean, it's not like it's an open book. We know them about what they do on the field. Like some guys, yes, they go and do great things off the field as well, but there's still a whole aspect to their life that isn't there in front of the cameras. So let's not trivialize this and make this to be like not some big deal that they have demons that they have to deal with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that was something that I wanted to say as well. These are still human beings, people. I mean, yes, they may be celebrities, and yes, they may make millions of dollars, and yes, they may be playing a game to make that millions of dollars, but these are still human beings. They're still people. They still have emotions and feelings, and they're not just these big brutes that run around and knock their heads together. Like that's not what this is. Yeah, they're playing football for a living, but at the same time, you never know what might be going through somebody's head. I mean, sometimes I get into weird states, and I mean, Eric, we know, like somebody else might be in a weird state. Like there's, for anybody to judge somebody and say that, well, you're making millions of dollars, you don't need to go rob somebody. Well, who knows what might be going on behind the scenes? Who knows? Like to make it like you're famous, you're rich, you don't have to worry about anything. Forget that logic. That's just nonsense to me.
And Cobra is, I wanted to enlist. Unfortunately, I had other health issues and stuff like that. And there are plenty of people who serve that I know that they're dealing with their own personal demons as well. Like everybody's dealing with their personal demons. I get that military men are sitting there and going and risking their lives every day for us. And I'm super appreciative. If any of you guys in the chat served, I appreciate you guys.
Yes.
And I'm so thankful for that. But it's just the fact that is, yeah, they're doing that, and they are doing it for peanuts. I definitely agree there. But that still doesn't take away that these NFL players are people too. They are having their personal demons. A lot of them had really traumatizing childhoods that they have to deal with and try to outgrow, and it just leads to other issues in their lives. Some of them, the fame gets to them, and they start partying and stuff like that. I'm not saying that one's worse than the other or anything like that. It's just saying that they're people too. That's all it is they're people too. Let's not trivialize the fact that they have their own personal demons to deal with. There was one comment that I wanted to get to get off that topic, because that's one that we don't really want to talk about that much.
Well, I'm going to go ahead.
Ashish. I'm sorry, I'm really terrible with pronouncing names. Hi, Eric. I've been to Alaska too. That's actually awesome. I love it when people tell me that they've been to Alaska. Don't hear it all that often, really. Went to Anchorage in 2012, visited Seward and Homer. I'm sorry about Homer. That's where the hippies live. A lot of tie-dye. It was awesome. And do you guys think the tackle position is something to worry about due to the inconsistent plays from Bulls and injury concerns for James? Is that going to let the whole offense down? I don't think it is, because the biggest thing is, and why I think we didn't see so much focus on improving the tackles this year, is Drew Lock deals with pressure from the tackles fine. He knows how to escape. He knows how to avoid it. The issue that he does have with is dealing with pressure from the interior, so that's why they wouldn't improve that. I have no issues with the tackles. I hope that James can stay healthy. I think Bulls played a lot better last year than a lot of people give him credit for. but I don't think that is going to let the whole offense down. I mean, we saw the offense improve last year after Joe Flacco was benched. Sorry. And Juwan James wasn't out there, and Elijah Wilkinson was. And Elijah Wilkinson was far worse than Garrett Bowles was. And the offense still improved pretty well after that. And I think that they're going to improve even more this year, especially if Juwan James can stay out there on the field.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. Well, you guys all know how we feel about number 72. I'm not going to say his name. But with exactly what Eric said, and exactly kind of like what I said earlier, with Drew Lock being able to step up in the pocket and manipulate that pocket pressure, so long as the interior of the offensive line can give him a clean pocket to step up into, you're going to see a lot less pressures coming from the outside. So I totally agree with that.
And James, I definitely agree. I absolutely love that Monte Ball is now a public speaker and everything like that, and he's using his platform for good. I absolutely love that. Everybody that I've ever spoken to always thought about how nice of a person he was, and it still amazes me too that when he had his appendix taken out and just a few days later, hats off to him.
Yep.
For that.
Jody coming in with a quick question here. Ball over Bell in that draft, Lance? No. I had Le'Veon Bell is my top back in that class, actually.
And Denver tried moving up to get him, but they were unsuccessful.
Yeah, and then Pittsburgh ended up stealing him and turning him into an absolute monster. Man, the way that guy runs with patience is so amazing to watch. He did that back in Michigan State, too. Oh, I loved it. All right, let's see here. 45 minutes right now, guys.
We have time for a few more questions, but not that many.
Yeah.
I didn't see any really that were there. Bell was off the board anyway. Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I said, as Denver did want to move up to get him, a lot of teams did. He was very, very desired with that.
In fact, I was looking at that draft class the other day when I had this discussion with Nick about what Monte Ball could have been. I actually went there and looked at that just to kind of give myself a refresher on everything that was there. And yeah, I do remember the Broncos trying to trade up for that, but the Steelers weren't having it and they took him off the board.
Were there any other successful, super successful backs to come out of that draft class?
I didn't look all the way through it, but no, because that was at the very the beginning of the running back.
What year was that?
2014, I believe.
It doesn't seem like it was that long ago.
It was that long ago. It would have been a 2014 NFL draft because that was the first. He was playing with Peyton Manning. And
I am old.
Yep.
It wasn't 2014. You liar.
No, I swear I'm fairly certain.
No, because that was Cody Latimer. I just looked it up.
Oh,
lying to me now.
Was it?
All right, chat. Help us out. What year was it?
Yeah, what year was that draft class?
2013. Thank you, James.
Okay, so 2013. I was close. Leave me alone.
Yeah, but you were still wrong.
Shut up. Why do you always have to do that? God, you guys don't understand what it's like to have to be with Erick Trickel. The guy is amazing. He's super smart, but dang it, he's a butthead sometimes. I swear. Ask Josh Rosen how friendly the NFL is. Absolutely. All right, let's see if we can
talk about a player who could potentially be good but circumstances have held him back.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many that come to mind, but Josh Rosen, Arizona, LOL at that team, Miami, LOL at that team, and what now? They went and got Tua.
Dude, I went on a rant about this a couple of weeks ago, I believe, where you have the Arizona Cardinals trade up to number 10 to go get Josh Rosen. They put him behind that absolutely atrocious offensive line with an aging but still good Larry Fitzgerald, and there's nothing to work with. Wilkes was his name, the head coach. There you go. But Rosen had nothing to work with. The Broncos absolutely destroyed him. In an amazingly fun football game to watch, by the way, Thursday night football in Arizona, and then the Cardinals come away with the number 1 overall pick. He gets shipped out to the Miami Dolphins for a 2nd round pick, and then he gets sat behind Ryan Fitzpatrick all year, and is on the worst roster in the NFL, and maybe the worst roster we've seen in the last 10 years.
And when he played better than Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yes, he did.
Back to Ryan Fitzpatrick.
So this is where I was like, you know what? the Indianapolis Colts, when Andrew Luck said that he was going to retire, I was like, we'll see how this actually works out. And then the Dolphins are absolutely terrible again. I'm like, all right, the Colts, they need an answer at the quarterback position in the long-term future. They have 2 second-round picks. Why not ship a second-round pick to Miami and pick up Josh Rosen and pair him with that offense and that team that they've actually kind of built pretty decently in Indianapolis? That would have been an amazing fit. And look at what happens. He's still rotten in Miami, and he's going to sit behind Tua Tagovailoa. The guy has had the worst string of luck. Say what you will about the man and the personality. There's a lot of talent to work with Josh Rosen. There really is. Oh, my goodness, man. That whole situation just grinds my gears.
So I'm going to laugh if New England ends up trading for him to be their
no, don't you say it.
because Jarrett Stidham is terrible, by the way.
Yes.
But just because I remember during that draft, Nick was so hard for Josh Rosen. Man, it got to the point where Nick was annoying. Like, you know how Nick gets when he absolutely loves a prospect. Yeah, he gets super annoying about it. I mean, the dude liked I can't think of his name now. Malik McDowell. Yeah, stinky breath is his name. That story is still one of my best. One of the best ones for Nick. Like, Nick smelled his breath and smelled like he didn't brush his teeth for like 20 years. But yeah, Nick was so afraid of the Patriots moving up and getting Josh Rosen that it'd be funny these few years later they end up trading for him and making him their starter. I'd laugh. But Clay came in with an interesting question. My friends got into an argument about who was faster, KJ or Tyreek. I know he ran the 40 faster, but we didn't know who has the faster acceleration. I'm not sure. Eric, can you answer? I think they both use their speed in a little bit different ways. Straight line, I think that it'd be really close. I'm not really sure who would be faster really in a race or anything like that. Very hard question to answer. But I think it's very close. I think that Tyreek Hill may have the edge just a little bit with how he uses his speed compared to KJ Hamler, but I definitely think it'd be close. And sign me up for watching that race. I want to see it.
No, absolutely. I want to see that 40-yard dash race. Marquise Goodwin in there as well. I want to see that because he won that 40-yard dash competition. When was that? I can't remember exactly when it was, but he won the 40-yard dash competition. I believe that Chad Johnson put it on. But anyways, no, as far as KJ Hamler and Tyreek Hill, I agree with you, Eric. I think Tyreek probably gets him by like half a step. So it's going to be really close anyways. But the way that Tyreek wins as far as that quick twitch, and it's not just – like a forward, so quick twitch, obviously, like you said the other day, side to side movement, and I think that's where he's going to have the edge against KJ Hamler. But Tyreek Hill's first step might be the fastest first step in all of the NFL. Seriously, like the guy is so fast and explosive right now, and is 0 to 60 now, that fast. And he can do it coming into and out of breaks as well. So I don't know. We'll have to see what KJ Hamler is able to do, but I think he's more of a straight line speed kind of a guy and not a twitch guy.
James, silence that Trey Lance to New England talk.
Please stop it.
Like, that's not something we want to happen. I really like Trey Lance's game, and I do not want to see him compete with Bill Belichick as his coach.
This is kind of an interesting point here, James. There was a 40 split between Ruggs and Waddle at Alabama, pretty much a dead heat. Jalen Waddle's that fast? I didn't see that. I thought he was fast, but I didn't think he was that fast.
So, still crazy to think Tyreek Hill was a 5th rounder.
That's what happens when you hit your pregnant girlfriend.
Yeah. Plus, he was from a small school, too. Like, hitting his pregnant girlfriend was definitely the bigger factor here, but being from a small school didn't help whatsoever.
Well, he was actually at Oklahoma State. He was at Oklahoma State, and
he got dismissed from there.
No, so he was at Oklahoma State, and I believe that was when he hit his girlfriend, and he had a transfer. My timeline might be messed up on that, but I know he was at Oklahoma State, and then he was a transfer out of that. And I'm fairly certain it was because he got in legal trouble. And
I don't know. I just remember that he was from a small school. I didn't watch him because he got taken off my scouting list because of what he did. Yeah, so
and that's fair. But he fits in perfectly with the Chiefs. They really like people that get into trouble.
Yeah, he was dismissed from the team for domestic violence, and then went to West Alabama.
Yep. Alrighty, guys. I think that's pretty much going to do it for us tonight, though. Honestly, I'm not seeing any more questions coming in here, so that we desperately Actually,
Oklahoma State isn't small, but West Alabama is, and I just completely forgot that he was with Oklahoma State. But
yeah, no, I knew that he was at Oklahoma State, and I knew he had to transfer, but I was fairly certain.
Well, look at you.
Yeah, I know a little bit of history. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you all once again for joining the Dove Valley Deep Divers Live. You guys can follow us. You can follow me at Sanderson MHH and for Eric at Erick Trickel. Also, make sure you guys are following the podcast at DVDD_pod. That's the easiest way to make sure you guys are in tune to what we are actually doing on the podcast tomorrow night. We don't have a topic yet as of right now. We'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. But anyways, that's the easiest way to keep up with what we're doing here. Also, follow at Mile High Huddle for instant news and updates, breaking news, item pieces. I got some film pieces. I'm still trying to work on that. I do have a 12-year-old that's struggling with some schooling right now, so I'm working on that diligently, taking a break from that tonight. But anyways, at Mile High Huddle, we got some film pieces coming up. I know Eric just did one on McTelvin and Jeem earlier this week. Also, head on over to huddleuppod.com, get your merch, do whatever you got to do, get a hat, get a T-shirt, whatever you got to do to help support the cause. And if nothing else, guys, subscribe, like, and share. The 3 easiest ways that you can help our podcast get out to as many people as possible. So with that, Eric, any last words?
Yeah, I need a new host. Your takes were terrible tonight.
They weren't that bad. Stop. Stop.
No, just thank you all for joining and just having a fun. Apparently, you need a new host. I can't talk, but thank you all guys for joining us and just having a good time. And Brian, there was also the caveat of people dealing with major injuries in there as well, not just people who had that many carries. There was other caveats on there as well. Cedric Benson, I don't think that he was really all that good. He had a couple good years, but Tony Dorsett was the one that I was actually talking about, and Ricky Williams had so many other issues too that I just didn't count him. Yeah. But anyways, thank you all for joining the conversation. We'll see you guys tomorrow. We have no idea what the topic of conversation is going to be. Maybe we'll do something about a 53-man roster projection. Maybe we'll do something about that.
That works. If nothing else, guys, whatever you want us to talk about, hit us up. Hit us up on Twitter at Sanderson MHH, at Erick Trickel. Shout out to Bawana. Shout out to James for all your guys' help and everything we do. Y'all have a great night. Stay safe and take care. We'll talk at you later.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.